All right, so today we're diving deep into something that I'm sure just about everyone has some experience with:
Yeah.
sibling rivalry.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, whether you're a parent yourself or maybe you grew up with siblings, or
Mm.
even if you've just like witnessed some uh, pretty epic arguments between siblings out in the wilds, right?
Absolutely.
Like everyone's got a story.
Everyone's been there.
So we're going to dig into what causes this, uh, how those dynamics change as kids grow up, and most importantly, how to deal with it. All
Right.
right.
Exactly.
Not just for parents, but, for anyone who wants to understand these relationships a little bit better.
Yeah, and it's funny because when you look at the research, you realize that this isn't just about kids being difficult or anything like that.
Oh, yeah?
It really goes deeper than that. There's some fundamental evolutionary stuff going on.
Oh, wow.
When you think about it, siblings are competing for resources
Well, yeah.
from the very beginning.
Like food, attention,
Exactly. Parental attention,
toys.
toys, space, anything they see as valuable, right? Yeah.
Built in.
I mean, that makes sense. Like, at a basic level, I get it, but does that really explain, the level of, I remember my sister hiding my favorite stuffed animal when we were little, and I was devastated.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it from a kid's perspective, right?
Yeah.
That stuffed animal,
Yeah.
even though it seems small to us, it represents comfort, security, maybe even a sense of control.
Oh, yeah.
In a world where they have very little control over anything.
Right.
And as kids grow up, these resources that they're fighting over, they kind of become more abstract.
I see.
So, toddlers, it might be about who gets the red crayon, right?
Yeah.
But for teenagers, it might be about curfew, social media privileges, who gets the car keys first.
Oh, yeah.
All of which is tied to this sort of growing need for independence
Right, right. Yeah.
and their place in the world.
Okay, so if conflict is basically built in, then what's the secret to managing it?
Because our sources seem to really emphasize this idea of fairness, but that feels so much easier said than done.
Oh, absolutely. And it's not even just about objective fairness. It's also about perceived fairness, right?
That's interesting.
Even if you are bending over backwards to treat your children equally, one of them might still feel slighted.
Right.
And that's where the problems start.
Wow.
So it's really crucial to establish clear expectations from the get-go.
Okay.
Make sure you're dedicating individual time with each child, and probably, most importantly, teaching them how to resolve conflicts constructively.
So basically turning those arguments, those squabbles, into teaching moments.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that idea, but how do you actually do that in the heat of the moment?
Right. Well, it's about, helping kids to identify what they're feeling.
Right.
Put words to those emotions, articulate their needs, and then find solutions that actually work for everyone involved.
Okay.
It's not about suppressing the conflict altogether.
Right, right.
It's about using it as an opportunity to build emotional intelligence.
Okay, so being able to understand and manage their own feelings,
Mm.
and then also empathize with other people.
Exactly. Yeah.
It makes me think about the impact of all this down the line, like how these early relationships actually kind of shape us as people.
Yeah.
And I know our sources talk about sibling interactions as being like a training ground for how we navigate relationships later in life.
Exactly. So think about it,
Yeah.
whether it's negotiating with a coworker,
Yeah.
setting boundaries with a friend,
Yeah.
or even resolving conflict in a romantic relationship.
Right.
The skills that we learn in those early sibling battles can actually have a lasting impact.
I mean, that's kind of amazing.
Yeah.
But wouldn't constant conflict also maybe teach kids some unhealthy patterns?
Yeah.
I mean, how do you make sure that those early interactions are actually positive?
It's all about balance.
Right.
While conflict is kind of inevitable, it's the way that we handle it that really matters, right? Yeah.
So if children are consistently exposed to, hostile environments or unhealthy conflict resolution patterns, it can definitely have negative consequences.
Right.
That's why it's so important to actually nurture positive sibling relationships.
Okay, so how do you go from just managing the damage to actually encouraging those good connections?
Well, our sources talk a lot about the power of shared experiences.
Okay.
So, things like family game nights,
Yeah.
collaborative projects, even encouraging them to celebrate each other's achievements.
Yeah.
All of that kind of fosters teamwork and mutual respect.
Right.
And it's important to remember that every child is different.
Right.
Instead of forcing them to be best friends,
Yeah.
it's more about helping them to appreciate each other's individual strengths
I see.
and find ways to connect based on those differences.
Okay. That's really interesting. So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive into sibling rivalry, I have one final question for you, listening out there.
Well, it's one small thing, just one small step that you could take today to improve the relationships in your family.
Hmm.
It could be like starting a conversation,
Yeah.
expressing appreciation to someone,
Yeah.
or even just putting your phone down and being present with the people that you love.
Absolutely.
Because those sibling squabbles might feel like they're going to last forever, but, a little bit of effort can really help
Yeah.
to transform those childhood battlegrounds into like the foundation for a lifelong bond.
It's true.
And that's something worth fighting for.
Absolutely.
So until next time, keep diving,
Keep diving deep.
and we'll see you on the next deep dive.
See ya.